Hello number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and a few of you have asked me to talk about something that has been a little bit of a hot news, shall we say. Alright, so if you've been around the internet for the last 3 days, and I mean, of course you have, you will notice that one of the most popular top stories is the idea that ancient direwolves have been brought back from the dead. In other words, not only YouTube channels and TikTok accounts and whatnot have been speaking about this, but BBC News, ABC News, Time Magazine, CNN, USA Today, and yeah, the list goes on. Now, if you're not familiar with what the direwolf is exactly, I will leave a link to this fantastic article that I found and read through that explains and gives us context. So let's have a look. Direwolves are considered to be one of the most common and widespread large carnivores in the Pleistocene America, yet relatively little is known about their evolution or extinction. Here, to reconstruct the evolutionary history of direwolves, we sequenced 5 genomes from subfossil remains dating from 13,000 to more than 50,000 years ago. So in other words, what we're talking about is an ancient prehistoric animal that went extinct either 12 or 10,000 years ago, just like a lot of other prehistoric animals such as the, well, woolly mammoth. And we'll get back to that one later. Man, they looked awesome though. Now, the claims that these extinct animals have been brought back come specifically from a biotech company called Colossal Science. So let's have a look at the official website, colossal.com, to examine the claim. Okay, so this is their official website that you can see, Colossal Laboratories and Biosciences. And massive here we see the introduction to what it is that is their goal that they're trying to achieve, which is de-extinction. We read, extinction is a colossal problem facing the world. I mean, that's the understatement of the millennia, considering the fact that the majority of the species that have ever lived on this planet have gone extinct. So yeah, it is a colossal problem, I suppose. But we read, and Colossal is the company that's going to fix it. It sounds a lot like marketing, but we'll see. They have a good PR department, I suppose. Combining the science of genetics with the business of discovery. I would like to underline this word here, because business, indeed, this is, since this company has received hundreds of millions of funding. Not that there is necessarily anything wrong with that, it's good when science gets funding, but it is important to underline that there is a lot of money involved in here, which can help us understand the nature of these claims. Now, of course, before we continue, for full transparency, I would like to underline that even though I am interested in the prehistoric period as one of the things that I'm interested in, even though I'm more of a history guy, prehistory is like before, but I am interested in it. I've studied the prehistoric period, although usually I study it more for the weapons and armor rather than the extinction of animals and how to bring them back using genomic sequencing and whatnot. But clearly, I'm not a geneticist. Now, given I have looked into what experts say before making this video, because I do know that people come here and do ask me because they know that I'm very thorough in my investigations. But I do want you to keep in mind that I am not a specialist in the field. In fact, I don't know anything about genetics and the like. Still, I do believe that we can still pass judgment on whether or not the claim is appropriate. Continuing, business of discovery. We endeavor to jumpstart nature's ancestral heartbeat. Yeah, whoever is writing this is a pro. To see the woolly mammoth thunder upon tundra once again, to advance the economies of biology and healing through genetics, to make humanity more human, and to reawaken the lost wilds on Earth, so we and our planet can breathe easier. Interesting statistics is one of those things that I think we may have heard, all of us, either at school or maybe watching a documentary, but it's just one of those things that you never really think about, but when you do stop to think, it is mind-blowing. So according to leading scientists, 30,000 species per year on average are being driven to extinction, 6 per hour, 150 per day, up to 55,000 per year. That is insane. Now, obviously, this also includes bugs, or I don't know if it even includes microscopic species, very likely, I mean 30,000, but still, that's a lot, every year. 6 per hour. So by the time I'm done with a Heroes of Might and Magic game, there are like 18 species that are gone. It's crazy. The World Animal Foundation predicts that up to 1/2 of all species could become extinct by 2050. Yeah, I don't know if I believe this one, to be honest. I think I looked into this one a little bit. Seems like they're overselling it. Like, maybe not actually become extinct, but more likely, because it's just 25 years, it's more likely that there will be species that may face extinction. That's a different wording, and wording is indeed a problem as we continue investigating this. Then they continue to tell us about like amphibians, they tell us about both animal and plant species, which of course it is all important, and it's something, I mean, ecosphere, protection of the environment, all these things are important, 100%. Plus this guy looks legit, look at that beard. Yeah, look, it's even called a billion-dollar startup. So as I was saying, there's a lot of money involved, which is one of the reasons why I think, even though they may not lack in the research department, it seems like they do get results and things work. They do excellent research, but they do lack a little bit on when it comes to, in my opinion, their marketing campaigns. Not because they're not effective, they clearly are, they get a lot of money, but simply because I think it would be better if you made statements that are a little more precise, if you will, to avoid ambiguity. What I'm talking about is this, going back to this article, which I believe there are, there's a lot of people involved in this, but some of these are scientists that belong, if I didn't misunderstand that, to colossal science. So as they speak about the research, this is very pertinent, so to speak. So we are talking about the direwolf, and we read, our results indicate that although they were similar morphologically to the extant grey wolf, direwolves were a highly divergent lineage that split from living canids around 5.7 million years ago. I'm going to get back to this in a second, but let me finish. In contrast to numerous examples of hybridization across Canidae, there is no evidence for gene flow between direwolves and neither North American grey wolves or coyotes. Alright, so the reason why the grey wolf is important in this case is because that's what they used in order to bring back the direwolves to life. So, before we keep reading and checking out these details, one thing that I would like to say to someone who wants a sort of too long didn't read answer, did they actually bring back the extinct prehistorical direwolf to life? No. What they did is that they created a new species, a very cute species, I'll give him that, I mean look at this, which is basically still a grey wolf, but a grey wolf that they modified genetically to look more like a direwolf. So this little new type of grey wolf, they named in Remus, of course they did. I think they named them Romulus and Remus, which I do appreciate. I very much appreciate the reference to the founders of Rome, you know, because of the she-wolf and whatnot. That's top-notch. Loved that. Really liked it. And he is adorable, but he's not a direwolf. Is it technically possible to eventually study and replicate the genomes to a point that they will be able to bring back completely from the dead? For what I could read, probably not, but they can bring back, I mean, they might get better, and so they could bring back an animal or engineer an animal that is very similar, not only to the direwolf in this case, but to the mammoth. So I imagine it would be like a bigger elephant with fur, so they can genetically turn on those genes that stop growing that sort of fur, thick fur that we always associate with mammoths. I guess that's what they're doing. Now, I watched a few videos about this. I will put some videos in the description that I think are excellent, very exhaustive when it comes to explanations for the technicalities that I might misunderstand or misinterpret it, since again it's not my field, and so I don't want to go into too deeply into that. But yes, the claim is exaggerated, and as you can see, there is a massive difference between the dire wolves that went extinct, as we read, 10,000 years ago, and the grey wolf, because they split 5.7 million years ago. That is a lot of time, and a massive gap between the two species. Now, however you want to look at it, whatever title they gave time here that we are reading, The Return of the Direwolf, is clickbait. And we read, yeah, Romulus and Remus are doing what puppies do, chasing, tussling, nipping, nuzzling. Yeah, I love that. But there is something very unpuppy-like about the snowy white 6 months old, their size for starters. At their young age, they already measure nearly 4 feet long, which is one of the characteristics that I was telling you about. They're still grey wolves, but they are a new species, and now they've got characteristics that make them more similar to the direwolf, one of which, as you can see, is their size. Man, how big are these gonna be when they're fully grown? Tip the scales at 80 pounds and could grow to 6 feet and 150 pounds. Goodness gracious, I do want to see that. Then there is their behavior, the angelic exuberance puppies exhibit in the presence of humans, throttling up for hugs, belly rubs, kisses is completely absent. Now, this is fascinating, but I would like to know if it's also the case with grey wolves, or is it only a case once you turn on certain genes that now make them more similar to the direwolf? I wonder. So no belly rubs. Man, my Pomeranian is going to be upset. They keep their distance, retreating if a person approaches. Even one of the handlers who raised them from birth can get only so close before Romulus and Remus flinch and retreat. That does sound like ancient Rome, to be honest, although ancient Romans wouldn't retreat. They would go for frontal assault. This isn't domestic canine behavior. This is wild lupine behavior. There you go. The pups are wolves. Splendid. Not only that, they are dire wolves, which means they have cause to be lonely. And again, you see, they are stating that they're direwolves. The reason why they are stating that is because indeed the company does make these statements, they repeat them, but they're not direwolves. They cannot be direwolves. They're grey wolves that look more like direwolves. The direwolf once roamed an American range that extended as far south as Venezuela and as far north as Canada. Man, that is insane. But not a single one has been seen in over 10,000 years, and that is correct. When the species went extinct, plenty of direwolf remain have been discovered across the Americas, however, and that presented an opportunity for a company named Colossal Biosciences. And here is you see the Time magazine, extinct, not anymore, scratched. This is Remus, he's a direwolf. Well, is that what it looks like as a puppy? I don't think so. The first to exist is now over 10,000 years. Endangered species could be changed forever. When it comes to the tech, it is interesting. However, one of the things that I noticed that the company said is that they want to repair the ecosystem, in the sense that, of course, some of these species go extinct. Now, here's the thing. One of the things that I want to say about this company before we continue is that apparently they are a little annoyed that they've been compared to the likes of Jurassic Park, for obvious reasons. But I mean, can you really fault the public? I mean, what did you expect? Of course people are gonna compare you to Jurassic Park. Now, I don't think that they are planning on bringing back the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Although then again, I mean, if there is a vote about it. But they did mention the mammoth, and I mean, of course, that is the whole thing, the whole spiel, the whole stick when it comes to Jurassic Park was indeed this, the idea of bringing back extinct species, specifically from the prehistoric period. Now, once again, I think the reason why they don't like that is PR. Probably the PR department is not a good idea to be associated with where shit hit the fan and the Tyrannosaurus and all the raptors started devouring people. Maybe it's not a great idea. Public perception. So I think that's why whatever scientists, spokespersons decided to be like, no, we're not like Jurassic Park. No, nothing to do with it. But they do have, I mean, it's similar. It is a similar thing. So yeah. Anyways, one of the things that they say is that these projects have an ecological value, in the sense that within our ecospheres, there are sort of specific niches where animals are needed, if you will, to maintain a certain synergy, a certain balance within the ecosphere of a given sector of our planet. But then when some species unfortunately go extinct, and as we say, it happens all the time, and this can create some problems within said ecosphere. And so they say, no, we can actually intervene and start placing back these animals in order to repair the environment. I think this is part of what they were pushing. Thing is, though, I don't really think that neither the mammoth nor the deer wolves belong anymore. I mean, their world is gone. In 10,000 years for the dire wolves and whatever an animal they choose that might even be older than that, more ancient, they don't belong anymore. Their preys are gone. The sort of nutrition will be completely different. Now, given, I guess you could teach any carnivore to eat a deer if you really needed to, but still, what niche are the direwolves going to fill in the modern world? Even if they were actually managing to not create a modified grey wolf, but a real prehistoric direwolf. Personally, when I look at this, rather than thinking, oh yeah, this technology is interesting because they can bring ancient animals that are dead to life. Once again, it's fascinating thought for a few, but then again, recreating a full population, integrating them into the wild, I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. I would be more interested in perhaps using this technology to avoid endangered species that we think are very important for our environment, to help them not go extinct, to preserve them. And one of the things that I was reading is when a specific population cluster of any given species is about to go extinct, so their numbers are extremely low, they enter a loop that is called inbreeding depression, where they start breeding with each other because they lack other ways to find mate. And this works in the short run, but eventually it will create a lot of problems. And over a few generations, they get infertile, and that's the end of it anyways. So maybe if we see that there are some species that are going extinct, they're going through this process that we can map, then perhaps this technology could be used to preserve these species. But once again, resurrecting ancient animals, it is a fascinating project. But what do you do with them afterwards? Make a park? I'm sorry, but whenever the topic of reintroducing megafauna, prehistoric megafauna into our ecosphere here is brought back, that's what I think of. I think of the entertainment park. Maybe there are better ways to use them. I haven't got a clue. But here we are. I mean, you could make a lot of burgers from a mammoth. So there is that. Mammoth steak? Well, let's see if they can explain to us how they pull this off. Relying on deft genetic engineering and ancient preserved DNA, colossal scientists deciphered the Direwolf genome, rewrote the genetic code of the common grey wolf to match it, and, using domestic dogs as surrogate mothers, brought Romulus, Remus, and their sister, 2-month-old Khaleesi, or even a sister, into the world during 3 separate births last fall and this winter, effectively for the first time de-extincting a line of beasts whose live genetic pool long ago vanished. Once again, I don't think this is the appropriate way to classify what happened. Time met the males at a fenced field in a US wildlife facility on March 24 on the condition that their location remain a secret to protect the animals from prying eyes. The direwolf isn't the only animal the colossal, oh there we go, which was founded in 2021. Man, that's crazy. It's so recent, 4 years ago, and they're already that funded, and currently employs 130 scientists wants to bring back. Also on their de-extinction wish list is the woolly mammoth, the dodo, the thylacine, no idea what that is, or Tasmanian tiger. I do like Tasmanian tigers. So what is it? Cynocephalus. Oh, the couched dog? This, but for some reasons, I don't know why this. Bring back a velociraptor, for crying out loud. Already in March, the company surprised the science community with the news that it had copied mammoth DNA to create a woolly mouse, a chimeric critter with a long golden coat and the accelerated fat metabolism of the mammoth. You see, even though this is all fascinating, but I can't help it. When I read that, it makes me feel like, ooh, I don't know, man. It feels dystopic. Do you know where I'm going with this? They're working with the genes. They're turning things on, mixing things up, engineering this, engineering that, change the coat, give it the fat of the mammoth, but give it the... I mean, these things, when they happen in nature, they take an extremely long time. But if you speed them up artificially, do we really know what we're doing? I don't know. As a member of the public, I'm not a scientist. It does raise a question, not only when it comes to the moral aspect of all of this, since, I mean, they're doing it with animals, will they try this with humans? What are they going to do with the knowledge that they're gaining with all of these tests and test subjects? If they use it for good, great. But returning on the idea of humans, I mean, what if we start being able to genetically engineer our children the way we want them? So like we give them a certain height, we give them a certain life expectancy. Eyes, what if they let you choose their gender? I mean, once again, it's like a knife. You can use it to slice carrots and cook dinner, or you could use it to slice the postman and commit a crime. So the knife itself, it depends how you use it. It's the analogy that I'm trying to build here, the point that I'm trying to draw. Because if they do use that with humans when it comes to, I don't know, someone who has a Down syndrome, or someone who's got some birth defects, and they can save a life, they can save a child that was about to die because of heart complications that they can foresee, since they're now examining the genome, the DNA, and then they're like, oh, if we turn this off and turn this on, if that's how they use it, great. Malformation, maybe a child was going to be born without a leg and they can change that, then that would be great. But I don't know whether we draw the line. If they start letting you choose, like they give you a paper and you tick boxes for what you want, it sounds dystopic. That's all I'm gonna say. So let's hope that this all stays with very high level safety protocols, let's put it this way. If all this seems to smack Pete of B.T. Barnum, the company has a reply. Colossal claimed that the same techniques it used to summon back species from the dead could prevent existing but endangered animals from slipping into extinction themselves. Okay, and as I say, I don't have a problem with this. Like they say, the endangered red wolf, that could be nice, I suppose, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? Anyways, for what, I'm going to continue to look into this, but I just wanted to share a first brief first look, if you will, into the situation. I don't think it is accurate for what I could study up to this point. I don't think it is an accurate statement, the claim that they literally brought back an extinct animal back to life. But I do believe that they did create a new species that is in fact more similar to something that went extinct. And it seems like that this technology indeed works. I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. See you tomorrow. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much.